So now that we have our barricade set up to where, you can walk up to it, interact, and for now it at least just, gets destroyed, we want to actually make it move. So for example, when we interact, we want it to be able to slide out of the way like so, and then once it reaches its destination or some sort of time limit, kind of whatever we want to go ahead and destroy it. So what we're going to do is basically create a actor component that we can kind of apply to just about anything that will allow it to, well, simply move. So basically, I want to control this via a curve. So we're going to have a location and a rotation curve. They're going to be vector curves, so X, Y, and Z, yaw, pitch, and roll. And we want it to, on tick, go through and basically traverse the curve. And I'm saying basically a lot for some reason. Now, this is a component that is, going to be used for more than just the barricade. So it would be used for, say, the wall weapons, potentially like a power lever, that kind of stuff. So we want to make it pretty, I guess you could say, generically usable and accessible as well from these other modules. So that means we're likely going to want to have it inside of the core module. So here we're going to go ahead and create a new actor component, and we're going to call it, well, put it in a folder called components and call it, let's do motion component. I guess that's a decent name. And let's see, motion, yeah, because we already have the concept of a movement component, and I don't want it to really conflict there. Okay, let's go ahead and let's see, what all do we want to keep? I think we're likely going to want to keep the ticking, so we can do that in the component itself. We want begin play. Yeah, let's just keep all three functions and just make them all public and remove the comments. Like so. Okay. So we have that set up. Now let's just set it to not start with ticking. So primary component tick dot start with tick enabled equals false. Let's see. I'm not sure how I want to do the replication yet. Yeah, it's probably going to be easiest to do the replication in here as well. So set is replicated by default, pass in true, and we're just going to kind of, start here. So we do need to kind of, I guess, more or less be able to configure this. So for example, if we click on the barricade here, I want to be able to manipulate a specific component, not all components. So what I mean by that is I want to be able to tell it, hey, I want to move just the static mesh component. So we need to be able to have some way of controlling that. We need to tell it, what curves to use, that sort of thing. And we need to do so from kind of outside of the motion component itself. So we're likely going to want to do that inside of the barricade. So for reference, when the bundles are loaded, we can configure, the motion component if it has one. So let's go ahead and begin here. So we want a couple things. We want a location and rotation curve. So let's go ahead and just make a new function, void set motion data. So we want a, what is it, a U curve vector? Yes, a U curve vector. So a location curve, a U curve vector rotation curve, and a float. Let's do curve length. So it's going to basically be the maximum length. So the longest one between the location and rotation, whichever one's longer, it's going to be the length of that. So let's see, we'll have that. I'm not going to implement that just yet. So we have that function. And from the barricade, we want to go ahead and add that as well. So let's go ahead and add a T object pointer. It's going to be a U motion component, and we'll just call it motion component. And actually move this to the top. and for declare. So let's go to the constructor. Motion component equals create default subobject uMotion component. And I'll just name it motion component. Okay, so we got our motion component in. Now what we can do is let's see, do we want to do it here? I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter too much as to where the data is actually set. But for now, let's just do it in the on bundles loaded. That seems like an appropriate spot. So motion component, we want to set motion data. If I can spell right, good grief. Set motion data. What in the world? I don't know why it wouldn't just autocomplete. It did everything else possible. Okay, so with that known, we need to basically in the data asset figure out, well, not figure out, but tell it, what curves did we use and the length. So let's do barricade. We'll do another subsection called motion. Yeah, we'll do that. Then we'll have a T object pointer, U curve vector. This will be the location curve. Let's go ahead and forward declare the U curve vector and do another one. And the third one, which will be a float. So float curve length. And we'll set it to just 10 by default. Then we'll name this rotation curve. Okay, so in our data asset, we have our location, rotation, and curve length. So in our barricade, when we go to set the motion data, we can just pass those along. So barricade data, location curve, rotation curve, and curve length. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and create a definition. And all this is going to do is here in a new protected section, we are simply going to make some additional U properties. We are simply going to make some additional U properties. So yeah, we'll just do edit anywhere and T object pointer, U curve vector, location curve, rotation curve, and the curve length. So float curve length. And actually, let's name this from location curve to just location, rotation, and length. That way we don't have to worry about any sort of naming issues. And we can simply do location curve equals location, rotation curve equals rotation, and curve length equals length. And that's it. So we should have the data being passed through like so, and we should have the component ready to go and set up on the actual barricade. So now what we want to do is on interact, instead of destroying, we want to go to the motion component and basically, not call begin play, but we want to start it. So we want a public function that will more or less just start the motion, so to speak. It's basically just going to enable tick. So void, let's do start motion and void stop motion. Let's just leave it at start motion. We'll keep it simple unless we need some additional logic. So start motion. So what we want to do is we need a way to replicate it, which means we need a replicated variable that kind of indicates, the state. So true or false. Is it running or is it not running? So that's what we're going to end up doing next. We're going on about 10 minutes in the next video. That's going to be relatively straightforward to do. And then we're going to also implement the actual tick logic. So with that said, I will see you in the next video. If you like what I'm doing and you want to help support me, you can find a link to my Patreon in the description below, where you can also get early access to this series.